Welcome to the show. This is Code Conspiracy of a Dead Man. I am your host for the Speak In COAD podcast. I got Teddy Dynamite standing by. I think today we're going to talk about some crazy stuff. I had TBD watch a documentary about a pizza party. We'll speak in code for this one for sure. It gets dark and it gets deep and it's a weird topic to talk about. I had him watch it and then I started watching it just to kind of give myself a recap, and I realized I never saw that episode or saw that part of the documentary at all, but part 3. So we're going to kind of discuss it a little bit. We'll probably keep this one short and brief, but it's weird. It's a weird world out there. So I just wanted to kind of put this out there, kind of give some not recognition, but throw it out there for people to kind of have an idea of what we're talking about. If you guys do want to watch this part of the documentary or the documentary in general, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on the Discord, reach out. We'll send you the link. We'll put it out there, but we don't want to get banned on any of the other social media outlets. So we're not going to be showing any clips. We're not going to be talking too much in detail. We'll definitely speak in code, pun intended, and we'll get to it.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. There's little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. I am not asking your newspapers to support, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. To the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
So coming to the stage, we have the one and only, the world heavyweight podcasting champion.
Hello, good people.
What's up, man?
Nothing much. How about yourself?
Not too much. I figure we could do this could either be a quick shot and just jump right in, or we could do the normal. We could do the normal what's in your cup. We could, whatever you want to do. If you want to make it a little bit more lighthearted, that's fine. If you want to get to the nitty gritty and just start getting into like what you remember of the documentary, because we both watched it last week, or on Monday or Tuesday this week.
I think Monday. I want to say it was Monday. Yeah.
So it's not quite as fresh in my mind, which is good and bad. But
I agree, because some of that stuff is just wow.
Yes. I wanted to talk to you about it, and I could talk to Chente too. I don't know if he actually saw that part yet, so I could do one episode with you, or like part 1 with you, and then maybe part 2 with him, or we could both talk to him and interview him and stuff, I guess, in a way. So I was telling everybody we're going to be speaking in code on this one for sure. So I didn't want to get too in depth or too much detail, I guess, or anything like that. But we will be discussing the pizza party, the Playdough pizza party, part 3. Yes. So I just remember they were showing people that were still a part of it, like they were in part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not saying the people's names at all. They blurred out faces. They were giving people like code names in a way, or they were only using their first name without giving their last name. They talked about a specific place that actually makes the pizza and sells it and buys it. Um, and then they talked about different people that are involved in it, where it comes to they started reaching out to people in higher positions in the government. Um, I don't know if they were CIA or if they were FBI or something like that, but they they got a direct contact from somebody in the position of power in those that kind of realm, and they were telling them, "Hey, you guys got to be careful. The people that are involved in this are possibly may or may not be government officials that are involved and sharing and partaking in this so-called pizza party." So, was there anything that you remember specifically or that you wanted to touch base on with this one?
One was the symbols in the kid shows.
Oh, yes.
They had like
Yeah.
the swirling triangles, and I think one was like a swirling circle too.
Yep. And I remember they were talking about the circle that was like or not a circle, but the spiral, it like kind of went within itself. And they said
Yes.
that they picked that specifically because little people, um, younger people would draw just like that. So they're like, why not make that our logo or our symbol? Um, and then that way they can
Yeah, it was like right
jump
in
on it.
plain sight, because like I'm thinking back when I was a little kid, I would just draw random squiggles, and I've been seeing that forever, before I was an adult, after I was an adult. So the way
Yep.
they just like adapted that and made it a part of theirs, and then they were showing different shows where that symbol. They even showed what was a police station in Arizona, where inside their star they had that exact swiggle.
Yeah, I think the LA Sheriff's Department.
Oh, it was L.A. Okay.
I think so. Which is weird. It's like if there's so many people that are involved in this, um, no wonder it's not getting taken care of.
Yes.
I don't know if I sent you a video. There's a guy named Sean Ryan. I like watching his podcasts every once in a while. He he was like a former, I think, a Navy SEAL, and he ended up working for the CIA after he got out of the military. He ended up applying and getting a job in the CIA, and then kind of doing like what you would call like a black ops, or it just depended on the situation, depending on the mission and stuff too. Anyway, long story short, he has his own podcast now, and he brings on different people that were in the military and gets their story on like certain topics and certain things. Well, he brought this guy on named Victor Marx, and Victor Marx has the world record for the fastest like disarm. Like if somebody aimed a gun at them, he would disarm it and take it from them like in a blink of an
Okay.
eye. Like he was so fast, it was crazy.
Jackie Chan style.
Oh yes, you would think like this guy was like John Wick, or like Jackie Chan. Like he didn't like take it apart in the guy's hand, but it was just so fast that he snatched it out of their hand. And I could put a clip up of like from YouTube, like right here.
Victor Marx has the official world's fastest gun disarm. He is known for many things, including his 7th degree black belt in Keichu-do karate and jiu-jitsu, 4th degree black belt in weapons, and a former U.S. Marine. He has trained more than 30 world champion martial artists. and a record time and fastest gun disarm. Victor Marx is the real deal. He is a PTSD survivor who now fearlessly uses his knowledge and experience to help others.
So he goes on to that podcast, and the guy he starts off the podcast like talking deep about his personal life and some things that happened to him growing up as a kid.
Okay.
He was pretty much like tortured, and like I don't know if he was molested. I want to assume that I don't want to assume that he is or he was, but I'm almost certain he was in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
But he's older now. Like he's like maybe in his late 50s, early 60s or something like that. He was asked by somebody like, why did you want to why did you make it a goal of yours to be the fastest person in the world to disarm somebody with a gun that points it at you? And he goes, I get that question all the time. And he's like, I never really, I think he said he like kind of dances around it without like getting too involved in it and stuff. He goes, but on your podcast, I'm going to tell you everything. Anything you have questions, I'm going to let you know.
Okay.
And he does like three episodes or 3 parts to this podcast, and each one are like an hour and a half. So he tells the guy, he goes,
I never forget the first time someone asked me after doing the gun disarm, what motivated you to get that fast? There's a truth seeker right there, I thought. And I'll tell you, my stepfather sat me in a chair when I was a kid, pulled out that gun, pulled the hammer back, put his finger on the trigger. I could see the rounds, and he would tap me to the side of my head. And he would say, if you ever tell anybody what I've done, I'm going to blow your brains out. I'll put the gun next to you, call the police and say you shot yourself playing with my gun. And I remember as a kid, I was 7. I'll never forget my brain saying one day, I'll be so fast, no one will ever be able to hold a gun to me.
So the guy was just like completely terrified. I mean, he was a kid. He was only 7 years old. He was terrified.
Yeah,
And
I would be too.
and it's, man, it's just such a deep story, and very like there's times where I was like, man, I could have gotten choked up. Like if I was in the room with him, man, I would have gotten choked up. Like
Mhm.
just because I was able to pause it and like come back to it when I was ready. Like it gave me time to like kind of like chill out or kind of focus on other things, you know, and take my time with it.
Yeah.
So he ends up talking later on with the podcast that his sister was let's just say messed with
Okay.
by her father, so his stepdad. So his stepdad was somebody who was not very loving or caring at all, but would take advantage of or hurt little people. And little
Gotcha.
people, I mean like young people.
Mhm.
So he ends up talking about later on. He ends up talking to Sean Ryan about how he now is a part of an organization. He does kind of like a ministry where he'll go to different places. He'll go to prison, like juvenile prisons and stuff, and talk to kids and like
Yeah.
work with them, and like because a lot of them have been messed with or hurt, you know, or people have like done cruel things to them, you know. So he explains his story, and he tries to point them in a better direction, you know, whether it's
Mhm.
religion or whether it's just other options other than being in a juvenile prison or in jail in general.
Yeah.
So he he ends up creating like this organization where he works alongside other governments to go after and fight like trafficking type of stuff.
Okay.
And he said that there was this one girl where they, I don't know if it was an organization. It was like a terrorist organization. They grabbed this girl. I don't know if they grabbed her from the United States or just another country, and they pretty much got her to change her thinking in a bunch of different ways. So she is she's like a very good-hearted person. She like cared about her parents, loved her parents, and all that stuff. Well, they ended up not recruiting her. They brainwashed her.
Okay, yeah.
And when they brainwashed her, they pretty much use her as a recruiting tool, and they said that she is the best recruiter for this terrorist organization because of how they brainwashed her. And they said that it's such a crazy threat that if they were to go in and rescue her, one guy, I think it was an interpreter. I don't think it was somebody that worked alongside him in his organization, like from the United States, but the interpreter told him it would be better if we took her out, so to speak, instead of being able to help her and save her. It would have been better if she was ended, and that way she couldn't recruit anybody else. So what she was doing was she was going around and recruiting people to be pretty much like put a vest on and go bomb other places, with people around, and they said she was the best at it. She can get anybody to go do it, which was insane. So when it comes to this kind of stuff that we're going to be discussing, or that we are discussing, it's not that they just take people at a younger age and then make them like whatever. They can make them whatever they want to. So one of the things too is, sorry if I'm like really speaking subtly, like not getting too in depth, but I just don't want like the episode to get taken down. Like if you watch the documentary and if you have an idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend watching the episode of Sean Ryan's podcast called The Sean Ryan Show with Victor Marx. Victor Marx is kind of like a what is the guy's name? Oh man, I can't remember his name. He did the Operation Underground Freedom or Underground Railroad, where like he saved all those children and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why Tim Ballard. So he does stuff like that. And he talks about how like what's the one thing, Child Protective Services? You know what I'm talking about? So he was talking about how those are more or less like fronts. If a person can come to your house, like say for example, if I got into a fight with my parents as a kid and I called the cops, the cops would take me. The cops wouldn't they might not even arrest my parents. They might just take me into custody and just be like, we're going to find a better home for him, or we're going to find a better situation for him. And there's so many people out there that want to adopt and have their own children, and they make it such a difficult process in the United States that they make it easier for you to adopt somebody from another country. You could adopt a kid from China or Russia or Ukraine or wherever, it doesn't matter. Like or somewhere in like South America or something. It's easier to adopt a kid from another country than it is to adopt a kid from the United States. So it's like they were also talking about how all these children go missing every year. And I think they said that there was like 80,000 children that go missing every year that are unaccounted for.
That's way too many.
Yeah, and like, what about the people that get rid of their kids when they're like newborns? Like, hey, I don't want this. So
they just like leave them outside of fire stations or anywhere for other people to find.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, what if they tell the hospital, I don't want this baby? What did the hospital do with it?
They can't force them to take them. So then the hospital would call CPS. They would call whatever child services is called in their state to come get that child and try to find a home for it.
Yeah. And he was talking about how the system, I'm trying to think of how he said it. It was like, the system isn't something. The system is rigged. Oh, the system isn't broken. The system is rigged. Because it's like, well, what about these kids that have to go into these homes, and like keep going from foster family to foster family, and like they're not wanted, but they could also be taken advantage of, from other people and stuff too.
Yep.
So it's just, I don't know. It's very disturbing, and it can definitely ruin your day if you let it. It's like the best thing I would recommend is like try to learn to look for it, and then that way if you see it, you can say something, help somebody. I don't know.
Yep.
But definitely with those symbols and stuff like you were talking about too, like you can find things and see things once you start to kind of train yourself to see stuff like that.
Like I said, like I've been seeing those symbols my whole life, so it makes you wonder, like, were those symbols always a part of there, or did they adapt those symbols because it was easy to take over something that was already in place?
Yep. No, definitely.
Because like you said, like kids draw things like that all the time, and somebody noticed that, and so taking something that's always in our eyesight, making it mean something to only a select few people would know, and how are we to know any better?
Yep. And there was some talk about like one of the things that I remembered hearing about was there was a guy from, I feel like he was from Nickelodeon.
Oh yeah, the director.
Yeah,
that had like allegations and charges for that, and yet he kept getting jobs with Nickelodeon because like he was real close friends with someone else.
Well, there was another guy too. The one that I'm talking about was he got let go from Nickelodeon.
Okay.
But then he got a job working for Disney, working for like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody right away.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he had all these allegations and all these different things and whatever. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's very, very weird to me.
Yeah, because again, why would you hire somebody with those specific type of allegations to work with anything that involves kids?
Yeah. So it is disturbing to say the least.
My only thing is like, because I know people can get their records sealed. That's the only way I can see people hiring him, because if his record's sealed and they do a background check and that doesn't pop up. But like, I don't know like how you would go about, like you would think a charge like that would be open for the public to see when they look you up no matter what, because you want people to be forewarned about what type of person they're hiring.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be different like if he was like like how they say your juvenile record is sealed, but these were grown men doing this, so there's no need to hide that. Like they should have been on a registry or something.
Yep. No, 100%. I'm trying to find something, and I don't want to like go too far down the rabbit hole, but it could be something. It could be something that I can show. Some things you can't show for sure.
That's 100% true.
It was unsettling because I had myself gone through that, and watching it happen on the show, it was like reliving that all over again. I was reliving that whole thing all over again.
Maybe we better not let your dad know about the bike. In fact, maybe it would be best if you didn't even mention, that you came back here and I gave you all this ice cream before dinner. Why don't we just make it a little secret?
You know something, Mr. Martin? You're sneaky.
Sneaky?
Yeah, I'm getting a whole new respect for sneaky.
This is what happened in my life, and they didn't know about it.
You know something, Arnold? I really like you. I really like you. You and I are going to have a lot of good times together.
So there was that one. I don't know if I want to show too many of these.
So was he saying that like they were talking about that during the show and it brought back memories of when it happened to him?
Yeah. He's
Okay.
like, this was actually happening to me. And who knows if it was happening to him on the set.
And then it becomes a part of the show while it's happening to him. That'd be horrible.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
I'm acting
exactly.
out my own trauma for other people's enjoyment.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so that was island living. Some of the stuff, it was more towards like a specific island.
Gotcha.
But here's
the island in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes. So here's another one.
All right, this move right here.
I just saw part of it once, and then I was like, I gotta save this for something later.
I'm trying to remember the name of that movie because I actually seen it before. The name is escaping me at the moment.
I guess the one girl said that it was a Paul Walker movie.
Paul Walker.
So maybe that was one of the movie he did before he passed away.
Could have been.
And then let me see. Did you see this? Wait, what is this?
We turn now to a frightening trend in Ohio. Children disappearing in record numbers. According to the Ohio Attorney General's office, more than 1,000 children have been reported missing so far this year, with a large number of those disappearances happening in the Cleveland area. I'll be speaking with John Majoy, the president of the board of directors for Cleveland Missing, in just a moment. But first, correspondent Brooke Schaefer joins me live. Brooke, what else are we learning about what's happening there in Ohio?
Well, Nicole, officials in Ohio have called these numbers both alarming and startling. We looked on the website for the Ohio Attorney General today and found that this month alone in the state of Ohio, about 160 kids have been reported missing. Again, that's just for the month of September. That is a disturbing number that follows a trend we have reported on here at News Nation when more than 30 kids went missing in just 2 weeks in May in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland's police chief said a majority of those missing kids were runaways, sometimes habitual runaways. In June, Chief Wayne Drummond said more than 1,000 kids were reported missing so far this year, but said with the exception of about 50, they'd all been returned home. Even still, though, the chief acknowledged that missing children's cases in the Cleveland area alone were up about 20% this year. So the question, of course, why is it so high in Ohio? Here's former FBI agent and News Nation national security.
So there's
that is crazy, right in our own backyard.
Yeah. I just have is that the same one? Let me show you this one real quick. Mystery is nearly 50 kids go missing in Cleveland in September alone, while over 1,000 have vanished so far this year.
And what year was that again?
That was this year.
Just this year.
Yeah.
God
I
damn.
don't know what this is. Ingram room last seen in North Canton, Ohio. So
well, that also makes you think where the guy in Cleveland had the 3 girls for how many years?
Yeah.
Before they escaped and impregnated them and had made them have kids, several kids.
Jeez. And then here's this one. I think that's the same one. I like these videos.
It has been over 600 days since Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of human trafficking, yet not a single one of her clients has been arrested yet. And as much as I would love to sit here comfortably watching a rock get dropped into water with the rest of you, I think it's important for us to first acknowledge that Ghislaine and Jeffrey don't even scratch the surface on all the human trafficking that's still happening over in Mexico, mostly due to the Mexican cartel. When you pair that with all the drugs and murders that are happening from the Mexican cartel, it's very frightening to think that there's not enough people pushing for us to secure our border here in the United States.
I just like how they sometimes they'll show that, like the big boulder, and they're like,
To
it's
get
about to
people's
crack. You're like,
attention.
whoa. Yeah, and then it stops right before you. Like, oh, crap. And then I'll just show this.
Attention to the screen real fast. I want to show a quick photo that I took. It was 11:46 at night. I myself took this photo. That little girl that you see was acting terrified, not of the agents, not of myself, but of the man holding her. The very next day at the Donna processing facility, we threatened, and I was there to witness this man with a DNA test. He confessed that he actually was not her father, that he had rented her. This is a process called recycling. Now, I know we're here to talk about what happens to these kids after this point, but this little girl was then turned over to HHS custody, your custody, and you've talked at length today about the vetting process, right? And so you now know that this little girl, not through a DNA test, she's not related to that man. She now is in your custody. You have your own case managers who are supposed to vet these processes. And we, of course, know this from the Florida grand jury. These case managers have very little training or no training in interviewing these individuals, particularly children and young children who have been traumatized. You can imagine that this man who you just saw on the screen, who, by the way, was a convicted sex offender with this child, you can imagine the trauma that that child had sustained. Your own case managers are not trained in examining, evaluating, or recognizing documents as authentic or fake. She came with no documents. They have sponsors that you claim to thoroughly vet, which I would love to get your definition of thorough, because you haven't been able to articulate that here today. It also would include the fact that these kids show up with numbers pinned to their clothes or Sharpied on their bodies to call. Agents have reported in official testimony that these kids have the numbers, the same phone number Sharpied on their arms time and time again. Now, we've heard, of course, of situations where the same sponsor is being called and magically 20, 30, 40 kids end up with that sponsor. And again, I go back to your statement of we thoroughly vet. You've really emphasized that. Do you vet every member of the household? And does it include an FBI check? Does it include an Interpol check? I would hope that it would, considering that we've had 151 different nationalities cross the southwest border under the Biden administration. But I'm guessing that it doesn't, because only 9% of the UACs are subjected to a DNA test with their sponsor, less than 23% to a background check. And again, I should point out for the record the fact that you release these folks, these kids, to sponsors.
So there's that one. Oh, where the heck is the mouse? Oh, there we go.
The fact that he said he rented her.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
So I'll give you a little bit of insight, okay? Because people don't really understand what's going on at the border. I mean, I went down there for about a month. I was not at the Donna facility that she was talking about, but I was at one. I was at one near El Paso. What they do is here. I'll give you my perspective of what happened and how I saw it, and then I'll tell you how my perspective drastically changed after finding out the facts and the truth about certain things. So I worked in like the kids division. Like the kids would come in, there would be like a huge open room, and you had like I'm not gonna really go into detail on like breaking down what the rooms were set up and stuff, but you had a room full of like young girls that were like probably, I don't know, 17 and below. Okay. And then there would be like another area that would be like teen boys or kids 17 and below. And it would usually be like maybe like 12 to 17. And then there would be another one like 12 and below. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that way they kind of kept them in different stages and stuff like that. So I was down there in 2019 from, I think I was there all of June. I think I was there like maybe June 3rd or something like that. And I got home like right after the 4th of July, something like that. So I was gone for about a month, like down there when I was in the military. They asked for us to go down and help Border Patrol because they were getting a huge influx of tons of people coming up from the southern border. Like they were coming up from other countries and all this stuff. So like we thought it was just people from Mexico, but they were coming in from Honduras. They were coming in from El
They were just
Salvador. They
using
were
Mexico to get in.
Yep. And a
Okay.
lot of them were coming in. I mean, we even had a girl that came in. She was like 4. She came in from Brazil, and nobody spoke Spanish except for one of the customs and customs guys. So like you had Border Patrol that worked down there, and then you had TSA customs people that
Mhm.
they reached out to them and said, "Hey, do you guys want to go down and help?" You know, so a lot of people signed up to go down there. You know, they're like, you could be down here for like a month. You might be down there for 6 months. It just depends. So some of the guys that I met down there were like super cool. They were definitely very helpful. One situation really stuck out to me. When I was down there, I was paired up with a buddy of mine that I was stationed with, and he spoke fluent Spanish. And I could speak certain words. I could talk to a 5-year-old kid in Spanish, like joke around, talk about food, where's the bathroom, you know, ask them how they're doing, kind of thing, and like if they need anything. I could get by with probably talking to a 5-year-old in Spanish. So when I'm down there, I'm pretty much giving them food, giving them snacks. You know, you worked like a shift, and your shift might be you got breakfast, and then you got a snack, and then you gave them lunch, or breakfast, lunch, and then a snack. And then sometimes the kids would be like, they would go outside and play. You know, they would have like soccer, they had like basketball and stuff outside in like the fenced in areas and stuff like that. And all during that time, like the media was talking about how these kids were in poor, getting treated poorly and stuff. And so all I heard from the media was like, I think, you know, AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she came down there and was like banging on the door, like, let us in. And like, they would do protests, and they would show on TV that there was all these people there during this protest right outside of our facility. But from our window, we could see, and it was only maybe like 10 or 12 people. They just had all the cameras focused in, like real close, to show exactly what was going on, like to make it look like there were tons and tons of people down there trying to help and everything.
Okay.
So, long story short, I would go down, I would be working my shift, and I would have to either provide like ramen noodles or breakfast burritos, like whatever it was. Like there were these little snack bars. You gave the kids juice, different things, and some of the border patrol agents and some of the customs people were just like very, very kind and generous people towards these kids. And sometimes I would come in there and be like, hey, we're gonna give them lunch, and they're like, no, don't worry about it. We already hooked them up. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we ordered pizza for all the kids. I'm like, no way. I'm like, that's sick. Like, I just felt like I was a part of something bigger. You know, like I felt like that was like one of the first missions that I was ever part of, that I actually was making a positive influence in these kids' lives, you know, and like, or doing something positive, you know, I felt like I was making a difference.
Yeah.
I would have these kids come up to me, and they would be like, they would start speaking to me in Spanish and asking me for something. I knew what they were saying, but I would be like, hey, how do you say it in English? And they'd be like, oh, and I would tell them, and then they would repeat it back to me in English. And I wasn't trying to be mean or anything, but I was like, hey, if I got to learn your language to help you, you got to help me, you know? So after a while, like some of the kids were coming up to me and speaking English because they knew that my Spanish was only a 5-year-old level or below, probably a 3-year-old level, actually. So, and then when the kids would leave, you're like, they'd be like, oh, so they would come to the facility. They would reach out to a family member in the United States. The family member would either contact them or let them know, hey, yeah, they're part of my family. I could watch them here. Other people would call, and they'd be like, no, I have no relation to them. I don't know what they're talking about. And you'd just be like, what the heck is going on? Like, why? So then the people came to the border to come to the United States to seek asylum and go with their family members, and the family members were denying them. So one of the scenarios was, say I got government assistance and I lived here, and you came up illegally and you said, hey, COAD's my boy, like that's my family member. He can help take care of me, and they reach out to me and they go, hey, you could take him in, and help him, and this and that. But the government assistance that you're getting, you'll lose it. You won't get government assistance. If you take in somebody to help them, we can't keep giving you government assistance. So then I would then go, well, I don't want to lose my government assistance. And they would tell you, hey, he can't accept you. And then you would just have to get deported back to your country.
Damn.
Yeah. So some people were like, hey, I got family up here. I'm trying to get to my family member over here, like whatever state. And they were sending them to that state. And then the kids would be with that person or that family member. And you knew that they got taken care of. You knew that they got taken care of, which come to find out was different. So anyway, I had this one kid that came into the facility and he was walking around with a customs guy, and it was a buddy of mine. And I was like, hey man, I was like, what's up with your little puppy? Like, he just kept following the guy around everywhere. Like, he was almost like holding onto his pants. Like, please don't leave me. Like, he didn't want to be left alone with all the other kids. And he pretty much just was like following this guy around. And like, the guy was cool. Like, the guy was talking with him and was like, hey, so I was like, hey, does he want any soup, or does he want any, like, does he want a snack or anything? He's like, oh, he was like, he wasn't feeling good because of this. The breakfast burrito wasn't making him feel well. He goes, do you mind giving him some soup? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, whatever you need. And I had asked the kid, like, hey, what's your name? And he would just be nervous. And then it probably took about like a couple days before like the kid would come up to me. Like, when I would go to hand out food and stuff and snacks, the little kid would come up and be like, my buddy was like, hey, I got stuff I got to do. Like, do you mind watching him? Can he help you pass out food? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So I would talk to him and like just try to make him laugh. I would try to say Spanish like really bad, but like say it backwards. So it sounded like I didn't know what I was doing, or like I was trying, but I wasn't, like, I was just being goofy. Anyway, so his situation was his dad brought him through all these different places. He was from Honduras, so he wasn't even in Mexico. He had to travel super far to get to the border of the United States and Mexico. Then once he got here, he's like, he pretty much was like, hey, we have family here. Can we go? Well, the dad was like a felon. So they sent the dad back. They deported him. And they go, we'll keep trying to locate his family that he has here. So the dad kept telling the little boy, hey, if they ask, you have family here. You have family here in the United States. So they pretty much were looking and trying to locate. The kid had no names. He had no addresses. He was only 4 years old. The dad never provided the actual name, or he provided like a generic name, but not an actual like specific city, or he just said a state. So it was like trying to locate those people. And then who knows if they just said like, hey, we'll lose our government assistance. We can't take him. So this 4-year-old boy was in a border patrol facility for an entire month before they realized that the dad, the so-called dad, which I'll get there, was lying, and they had no family here in the United States.
Okay.
So he pretty much told the little boy, you have family in the United States. The little boy's in this facility. He probably only would have been there for 2 weeks before they found the family member, but the family member never existed. So then the little boy had to pretty much get deported after being in a facility, a 4-year-old kid being with nobody he knew, all by himself for an entire month. and then they shipped him back to Honduras to the dad. Now, here's where it gets messed up. When they are coming up to the border and saying, hey, let's just say, for example, let's just say it's me. I'm a kid. I'm coming to the border, and they go, hey, you have a family member in such and such place. Let's just say Nevada. And they go, okay, well, now I tell them, hey, I have a family member in Nevada. They reach out to the family member in Nevada. They don't do a DNA test. They don't verify that it is my actual family. And they give me free transportation to get to Nevada to make sure that I get picked up by that specific person that claimed me. Now, here's where it gets messed up. The government is giving free transportation to these children to get to their final destination. Their final destination are people that paid for them. So the government is giving them free transportation to their buyer. The buyer then uses them until they don't want to anymore, and then they send them back. Then the whole process starts again. So they have specific wristbands that get them from point A to point B. Say I have a wristband that's green. I get to my location. I get sent back with a green wristband. They swap it out with a blue one. So they know that I've already been sent back. So they need to give a different location. So that way I can go to a different person. So my first experience with it was I would see these little kids leave, and I'd be like, oh man, like I would be kind of bummed. Like they were fun. You would look forward to seeing them every day. You know, like you would see a kid come in like, hey, can I help? Like I had 2 kids specifically. I'm not going to tell their names or anything, but like they were so sweet and so nice. And the day they left, they were gone. I was like, hey, we're so-and-so. They're like, oh, their family member claimed them. So they went with their family. Now I'm hoping and praying that it was their actual family. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But when I went and talked with one of the nurses there, she would be there to like help aid with the children or the other adults that were in the facility as well. And I went and talked with her, and I was like, hey, I was like, so and so, like the brother and sister, they're gone. And she goes, I know. She goes, I'm so sad. She goes, I'm happy they're with their family now. She goes, but I'm so sad. She's like, they asked me like a few days ago, they said her name, and they're like, can you adopt us? And she's like, I almost broke down crying. She's like, they were adorable. She's like, I would have loved to, like, but I can't, like, I don't have the means. I don't know. She's like, but for them to even think of me as being considered like caring for them and loving them enough to be like, can you adopt us? And they've only known her for like a month. Like that's the type of feeling that we had when we were down there. And you were just like, you were doing your job. You were seeing the kids come in and out and stuff, which sucked too. Cause like once a certain group of kids that you were working with all the time, like they would help you and stuff. Once they left, you're like, oh man, you're bummed that you're not going to ever see, like you weren't able to say bye, just because sometimes they would get transported at night or first thing in the morning before your shift started, or like right after your shift ended, they got transported away. And then you would have another group of kids that were like, oh, I was like, they would always ask, like, but you had your set group that you were like cool with and like they were helpful. And then you would have to like try to help another, or like have another group of kids that were trying to like learn how to pass out everything and all that stuff. So that was my only, I loved it. I thought it was probably the best. Not that I loved the situation. The situation sucked, knowing about it now, especially, but knowing that I was able to like I don't know. I feel like I gave a different perspective of what it's like to be here in the United States and like be able to help them. Like I don't know if I was able to help them or not, but I feel like I made a difference in their lives. Like they made a difference in my life. Like I'm talking about this freaking 4 years later, almost 5 years later, and it's like it would definitely hit you right in the feels.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well.
I don't know, man. It's just the whole scenario where like when you know that children or kids are involved and they could be getting hurt, it just it it makes me very very mad. Um, and like I think there was a I was talking to a buddy of mine,
Okay.
and he goes, well, he's starting to find religion. He's starting to read the Bible and understand it a little bit more and stuff. And he goes, well, I go, yeah, so and so was messing with children. And I go, yeah, they're donezo kind of thing. And he's like, you don't think that he's like Jesus loved everybody. He goes, you don't think that he would have loved somebody that did that to children? And I was like, nope. And he was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, there's no way. Jesus was so loving and caring and stuff. I go, that's that might be true. I mean, that's true or whatever, but um he said to somebody, I think it was somebody asked about harming a child, and he said that it would be better for them to have a millstone tied to their neck and dropped in the middle of the ocean than to be judged by God. A millstone is like a giant boulder with
Yeah.
like and just sunk, like you're sinking. You're done. You're sinking in the bottom of the ocean. He said that would be a better outcome for them than being judged by God. If they but and then now listening to that Victor Marx guy, he talked with one of them. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I'm not going to like give too much details, but he said that he talked with one of them, and he said, you're pretty much going to go to hell unless you repent and you apologize for your sins and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
and it's like if that's the case, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's like if you harm a child, if that's like the one thing that you cannot be forgiven. And it's like I don't want to I don't know, man. I don't have that power. I don't have that judgment. I don't have that it's not my job to make that call. And it's
Yeah.
like when that time comes for somebody, but if there's days where it's like I really wish that there was just one island that they can all go to and you can keep them all there, and then just whatever happens. I mean, like I'm not trying to like injure anybody, but if I needed to, I would, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Did you want to talk about anything from the from that show for the documentary at all? I feel like I went on a really long tangent. I'm sorry.
That's
I
fine.
definitely was the host on this one.
Finding out about Charlie Sheen like threw me off, thinking he was just out
Oh,
here, sleeping with women left and right because he's a playboy and that's what they do. But then to find out that he was taking advantage of young male actors like that with no repercussions.
yes.
Like,
Yep.
I kind of feel like he deserves the situation he's in now. He has a uncurable disease, and if what they were saying about him is true, you reap what you sow. That's what you get.
Yeah. Here's what's crazy. I saw a clip. It might have been yesterday or the day before. It was like a short, like a YouTube short.
Yeah.
And I think he was on with Dr. Oz, and he talked about how he doesn't take the medication at all, and he's pretty much better.
How?
I don't know, but his uncurable disease seems cured
without medication.
I don't know.
That's very suspicious.
Yeah, I know.
There was something else they were talking about that I'm trying to. Like you said, it's not fresh in my mind anymore. But there was something that they had talked about I did want to bring up, but I just can't think of it at the moment.
Yeah, I really want to see the list.
Oh, the list of clients?
Yep.
To see how many notable people are on that list and just walking around living their everyday lives without repercussion?
Yeah. I want to see the list and I want to see them dealt with.
Yep.
I want to see them tried.
Well, I want to see the list, and I want to make sure that like it is proven that the people on the list, and then I want to see them dealt with.
Yeah, like for example, like Chris Tucker on there, for example, like they could have easily had a party and brought him to be the comedy portion of it.
You know? And he doesn't know anything wiser about the goings on behind the doors while he's up on stage doing the show.
Yes. And now
that's why I said I want to see like the people on the list proven and then dealt with, because like again, that could happen anywhere. Like you're guilty by association because you're with someone who's doing something unbeknownst to you. So yeah. And like we said, and then because we mentioned this on I think one of the other times we were watching the pizza videos where they were like tricking people, invite them to parties, and then like, oh yeah, that lady's over there attractive, and then after they go do their horizontal dance, they go, oh yeah, by the way, she's only 15, and now you're blackmailing people.
Yep.
Like because like there's people that purposely go after people underage, but if you trick them with someone underage just for a power play, that's not the same thing.
Yes, exactly. There was a guy that was he was giving examples, and he goes, I'm going to put you in a scenario, a made up scenario, and I'm going to show you how they work. And he goes, after you see this scenario, he goes, let me know what you would do differently. And he goes, okay, you're in a room, you have a meeting with somebody, and he goes, this is my niece or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the niece just starts taking off their clothes.
Yep, I'm getting up and leaving.
Starting to get naked. Well, but at first you're like, what the heck is she doing? And like the guy was like, he's like, oh, I'll tell her to stop. He goes, yeah, but most people would just be like, what the heck are they doing? Like they're just taking off their clothes right here, right now. Like, what the heck is wrong with them? Like a young person. And he's like, hey, stop, or whatever the case. And he's like, yeah, but by the time you say stop and all that stuff, they're already undressed. And he goes, if they go, hey, do you want to do something? And they're like, no, I don't want to do anything. You're like, okay, that's fine. But do you see that two-way mirror over there? We're recording you, and they got everything. As soon as you sat down, that person came in, they started undressing and changing and getting naked, and you didn't stop. Like, you didn't get up and walk away right away. Like, because if that happened, like, I could understand people being in shock. Like, what the heck am I witnessing right now? Like, or if they're at front of the door. So to walk away or walk out, you would have to walk towards them. And it's like, they might just show like, hey, look, he's walking towards them. And then on the clip. So it's all perspective of stuff too. So it's like, I definitely can understand how there were people that were blackmailed is if they didn't do anything.
Yes.
If that like that could easily have been a situation for somebody. And it's like, I don't know. Like I have skeptical hippo eyes. It's like, I would be skeptical if they were like, that didn't happen, like they more than likely the people in the list of names that I'm sure that we'll hear about or heard about, they probably would have done bad stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else. Like I said, there was like, I probably should have written it down as the stuff popped up when I watched the video, so I
Yeah.
had it to talk about. But I wasn't thinking. I
It's
wasn't
okay.
thinking like that. I kind of got like absorbed into the video, and
Me too.
yeah, it's just
Yeah, it's crazy.
yes.
Maybe Chente will watch it. He'll watch it more with a fresh set of eyes and ears,
Yeah.
and then we'll get him real quick.
We'll
Like,
have
what do
to
you
tell
think
him to
about
take
this?
notes so that way, he might bring
Yeah.
up some of the stuff that we're forgetting that we had wanted to speak on.
Well, I talked with Hilly too, Hilly and All Right Dad,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What if we?"
Dilly dally.
I go, "What?"
Dilly dally.
Yeah. I was like, what if you guys watch this documentary, and once you're done, let me know, and I'll interview you, and we can ask them questions on what they thought about it.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Kind of get a different perspective of, pretty much a different perspective on it too, I guess.
Yeah, from people that haven't like went into the topics as deep as we have gone so far.
Yep.
Like you said, fresh eyes.
Yes. Now, do you have a thought for the day?
Me? A thought for the day?
I mean, are you cool with ending it on this? I mean, I thought we were only going to do 30 minutes. We've done over an hour. I'm shocked.
108. Yeah, I'm cool with ending it on this.
Okay.
Like I said, next time we watch a video, I'm definitely gonna like take notes so I can, well, I'm getting old. The grays and the baldness haven't told you people that, and like I'm very forgetful in my old age. So,
and we could always do like a watch party type thing on here too. Like,
yeah. Oh wait, that reminds me. Because it kind of goes into what we're talking about. There's a TV show called Found, and one of the episodes actually touches into everything we were talking about. Well, two of the episodes because they tie into each other. Where there was a little boy that was kidnapped, and they found out that a kid from his school was involved because there were people that got into his head and pretty much were using him to lure kids to them so they could traffic them.
Jeez.
And then it turned out that like the principal at the school was involved, and like all the very troublesome kids that were like known to run away and skip school and that, like they were disappearing, and that was because her and her group were like snatching them up and holding them until they could sell them. And it makes you wonder, like when the shows put this in there, like how much of real life situations have they got this from, like news reports and and documentaries like we've been watching, and they use that to kind of warn us when we're watching television, because that whole show is about like people going missing, whether they're go on a drug binge or they're kidnapped or whatever it is. And it makes you wonder like how much of it made me wonder how much of the show has been inspired by real life situations. Like you said, just 1,000.
100%.
Just 1,000 kids in Cleveland this year, or was it more than 1,000?
1,000. It was 1,000 in the month of
1,000
1,000 this year. It was 50 in the month of
Exactly.
September.
Like,
yeah,
just like some of them could just be your average runaway. Some of them could have been kidnapped and trafficked. Some of them could have been into drugs and overdose and just who knows where they are. But still, the fact 1,000, and they're all minors. It'd be different if it was like 1,000 and some of them were adults, but it's 1,000 minors. Like that's just so suspicious. That you would think it'd be a bigger deal. Like I don't watch the news a lot, but you think it'd be on the news everywhere. And I'm not sure how much you're on social media, but at one point, every other day, they were given the alerts about a kid being missing here and a kid being missing there, and then they all just kind of dried up. But yet we had 50 kids just go missing in the month of September, and where are all those alerts about these missing kids? Very, very strange.
It's super crazy.
Yes.
So, but yeah, man, you gonna hit us with that thought for the day?
Yes, I am. Thought for the day. Help others without any reason, and give without the expectation of receiving anything in return.
Sounds good to me, man. Yeah, and we can go from there. Sorry, like thinking 4 steps ahead for no reason. But
it happens sometimes.
Yeah. You got anything to say?
No, it's except that this is Teddy Dynamite saying, "Look to the stars."
All right, guys, this is COAD, Conspiracy of a Dead Man. Stay safe, stay blessed, and keep on questioning. We out. Find the mouse. I don't know where the mouse went. Went on the TV. Come on. There it is.
It's going after the cheese.
Yeah. I have my TV back in the back. I'm like, where did it go? I was like, oh, it's over there.